Thank you very much, Lascian Corla. Minister, I don't need to tell you that climate action is an enormous challenge for our country and indeed our planet. Warnings of increased global temperatures have been made by scientists over the past number of decades. We can see ourselves that the climate is changing, and we have been challenged to rethink about how society will function through the changes that we individuals, communities, business and industry must make. I'm from West Offaly, brought up in Belmont and Ferban. It's a county where energy generation has been a part of the fabric of life for decades, since the establishment of Bordemona and the building of the ESB power stations across the county. A third of our landmass comprises of peat, so it's no surprise that peat harvesting for energy generation was focused there. In the 1950s, we experienced less emigration than many other counties due to the number of jobs available in both companies. In parts of the Midlands, small towns and villages grew rapidly when houses were built for Bordemona and ESB employees. The staff and their families contributed both economically and socially to their communities. As such, Bordemona has been an integral part of the commercial and social development of the Midlands for decades, creating significant employment within the region, with employment peaking in Bordemona at 7,000 people in the early 1980s, and they now provide approximately 1,500 direct jobs, which in turn supports another 1,800 indirect jobs. Consequently, the company holds an iconic status in the Midlands, particularly in my own county of Offaly, and it is part of the social glue of many local communities. The transition from peat harvesting in the Midlands has been flagged for many years and has been accepted by Bordemona and ESB workers that electricity generation would be peat-free by 2027. The planned managed transition out of peat has been significantly impacted and complicated by the recent An Bord Pleanála decision to refuse planning for the West Offaly power station in Shannonbridge beyond the end of 2020. The application sought planning permission for the plant to co-fire peat and biomass until the end of 2027, and the expectation was that from early 2020 that the plant would operate by gradually reducing the volumes of peat and increasing the volumes of biomass by the end of 2027, and that it would be fuelled exclusively by biomass. This decision has huge implications for the workers, their families and their communities. It has all the hallmarks of a potentially devastating blow to Offaly and the wider Midlands area. The matter must be resolved for the protection of the workers, their families, and a solution must be found urgently. The Government and EU institutions have all committed to a just transition for workers, and it's imperative that action be taken on this immediately. That this will have significant implications for the wider economy, and I appeal to my call to ESB and Bordemona to communicate in an open and transparent way with workers about the situation. Uncertainty and speculation cannot be allowed to reign, and to this end, Minister, can I ask you to consider meeting with the Bordemona group of unions? I understand that they have proposals on the work required to carry out rehabilitation and restoration of former peat production areas. I won't go into the reasons for the An Bord Pleanála decision. However, suffice to say that I hope that the ESB will seek a leave to apply for a judicial review of the decision, but I understand that time is running out though and is of the essence. There are huge concerns at local government level in Offaly in terms of financial implications for Offaly County Council's rate base in the county. The rate base in recent years has remained static, but it is of huge concern that the present ESB's West Offaly Power and Bordemona's Edenderry Power account for just over 25% of the county's rate base. This is the potential to leave a 4.5 million hole in the council's budget. Offaly has made efforts to increase its own revenues locally, with the local county councillors making a decision yesterday to increase the local property tax, which will mean that 78% of households will pay no more than €33 extra per annum, but it will make a huge difference locally. We're doing what we can at local level, but we require the Midlands and all of the other Offaly and the other Midland counties to be addressed urgently by the Government and our EU partners. We are being disproportionately impacted by the decarbon transition, and we will require financial assistance to Offaly to make this transition. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister.
Very much. I'd like to thank the Deputy for raising this. I know her concern, having met herself and other deputies during the course of the summer. The Climate Action Plan, which was launched in June, includes an increase in electricity generation from renewable sources from 30 to 70% by 2030. This includes replacing the use of peat and coal for electricity generation with onshore and offshore wind as well as solar. This will reduce our CO2 emissions intensity from electricity generation, which is currently above the EU average. The plan commits to early and complete phase-out of coal by 2025 and peat, as you said, by 2028 for electricity generation. This is in line with the commitments under the Paris Agreement. The 3 electricity generating plants in the Midlands, Eden Derry, owned by Bordemona, and Lochrea and West Offaly, owned by DSB, have been planning for some time to reduce and eliminate the use of peat at the plants. Bordemona currently co-fires with 30% biomass. Both ESB plants have been granted support under REFIT 3 for co-firing with 30% biomass. The DSB is in the process of seeking planning permission to co-fire with biomass at Lochrea at present. A recent decision by An Bord Pleanála refused planning permission for West Offaly to co-fire and eventually run only on biomass. The ESB is evaluating this decision to see can a revised planning application be submitted to achieve planning approval. A planning application for the Lochrea power station to co-fire with biomass is currently with Longford County Council. Bordemona has been an integral part of the commercial and social development of the Midlands for decades, as you say, creating significant employment in the region. In its strategy to exit peat, Bordemona envisages the development and scaling up of new business opportunities to ensure the future commercial viability of the company and enable it to continue its mandate as an employer in the Midlands. It aims to develop a transition from peat, as they say, from brown to green. The ESB is also fully committed to the process of decarbonisation. Following this decision, I and my department are intensively assessing the options. If an earlier exit from peat than planned is required, the Government is determined to ensure a just transition. I have met with the board of Bordemona and its worker directors, and with the Oireachtas Midlands representatives, with the Midlands Regional Transition Team, with the Midlands Regional Enterprise Strategy Team, with the Midlands Region Skills Fora Team, and I intend to meet shortly with the Irish Congress of Trade Unions. There are several strands being explored to support a just transition. Bordemona diversification, as I have said, accelerated bog restoration by Bordemona, wider bog restoration of non-Bordemona bogs, an area-based retrofitting initiative, and other special initiatives for regional development. I have secured the inclusion of the Midlands in the platform for coal and other carbon-intensive regions in transition, which supports regions affected by climate. I met with Commissioner Canete in Brussels, and he confirmed in July that peat is being included, and the region would be included as part of that platform. Membership of the platform enables the Midlands region to avail of the support of a dedicated country team comprised of Commission experts to assist with the development of strategies and projects for the region, focusing in particular on the employment challenges faced by workers affected by decarbonisation. The team will also assist in identifying appropriate EU funding opportunities for the Midlands. The meetings of the platform also enable the exchange of knowledge and ideas between carbon-intensive regions. A preliminary meeting of this team with officials from relevant departments and other stakeholders is planned to take place in the middle of October. The Government is committed to delivering a whole-of-government approach in response to this, and that a just and fair transition is provided to those impacted. Following the final Government meeting before summer, the Taoiseach reassured the Midlands that a just transition plan would be worked on to find alternative employment in the region. An interdepartmental group led by the Department of Taoiseach has been established to develop a just transition plan for the Midlands. Clearly, this work cuts across a number of government departments, including my own, public expenditure reform, business, employment and innovation, rural community development and agriculture, food and the marine.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Corcoran Kennedy.
Thank you very much for your response, Minister, and I very much welcome some of the new information that you provided for me here in relation to your intention to meet with the Irish Congress of Trade Unions. I think that will be very helpful, and also the fact that the county team will be coming to Ireland in November, and I think it's crucial that the local Midlands Regional Transition Team would be very much an important part of the discussions with that county team. And I want to take a moment to commend Offaly County Council, who have been proactive in the response to recent events, and the fact that they've established a regional transition team, bringing together all the stakeholders in Offaly County Council, the elected representatives, the Local Enterprise Office, Enterprise Ireland, the IDA, Bordemona, the Enterprise Board, AIT and OLDC, is a very good example of how everybody pulling together can be proactive in responding to it. They are coming up with ideas, and I sincerely hope that there will be support for one of the aims that they have, which is in exploring ways where the regional transition team can work with Bord na Móna to assess the viability of upskilling the Bord na Móna workers to carry out the work required under a deep retrofit scheme. And I wonder, Minister, if you would consider Offaly as a pilot scheme under something like that, to establish how we would get the deep retrofitting done, and maybe use Offaly as a pilot scheme for that. And I think that would be very important. I also want to acknowledge, Minister, you turning the sod in a very exciting project by Lumclune Energy recently, where it is a battery storage project, and it's, I suppose, the next phase in the energy field in Offaly. So I want to thank you for your presence recently there.
Minister, will you conclude, please?
Thanks very much, Deputy. I can assure you that the Midlands Regional Transition Team will be central to the process that the EU is now establishing, where there will be a country team visiting Ireland. I recognise that there will be issues about developing a retrofit and making sure that there is a skill fit. I am also very conscious, though, that you have there some of the very good training facilities in Mount Lucas, where there is the capacity perhaps to do any necessary reskilling. I would certainly be sympathetic to trying to pilot something specifically in the Midlands. I think, as I've indicated in the climate plan, we need to find a way of scaling up the level of activity, and I think area-based schemes may be a good way to do that, and it would dovetail with the particular needs that may arise here. So I just want to assure the Deputy that I and my staff, and indeed the wider government, with the coordination role of the Department of the Taoiseach, is taking this really seriously, and we recognise that to a significant extent this is a test of our capacity to manage difficult changes like this that are being thrown up by the climate challenge in a way that's fair to people and supports them to make the changes in their lives and to support a region that is particularly impacted.
Thank you very much, Minister.